section because I don't know shit what's happening in
No,
US. So
it's
I just keep reading in the newspapers and that's about it. Like
yeah, he does.
I don't think I want to get into details.
No. It's the I don't think I'm going to get a visa after Trump reads this. Trump sees this. So the regular FBI agent who keeps tabs on me is probably going to be like, yeah, we don't want to give this guy a visa. So
No, well, see, FBI works that doesn't go outside. It's domestic. It's a CIA agent that's looking at you. Right
CIA or NSA, one of the two. One of them are snooping in on the texts which I'm having with you guys. So it's fine.
Yeah.
People are passionate about what they what they feel, what they love doing, because the thing is it brings this sense of it brings an essence into our conversation, and then we can actually field questions which are more associated with the kind of stuff you do. I think the worst thing you can do to an artist is not be interested in what they do, and like field questions like oh, so who are you dating, oh, so what's like your next move, like big move, like nobody gives a damn about that shit. Yeah, like it's I see Indian media as a whole, and it's just it's the most trashiest fucking media on this planet, and it should be really stopped. So
yeah, it's very tabloidy.
Yeah, and it's the same
like TMZ in a way.
Exactly. Or Fox News. It's just trash.
Yeah, those two.
Fox News for our Indian equivalent is basically Aaj Tak. It's the same. It is the
okay.
Yeah.
Now
Dekhiye is Vaishya Darinde ko, and like the American equivalent. Look at this man. Just look at him. I don't know why I sound like Arnab Goswami, but whatever.
Oh my god.
Brad, I think I'll introduce Brad to Arnab Goswami. I think he'll forget about, like, he'll never want to come to India after he meets Arnab Goswami. Arnab Goswami is basically what you get. Go on.
Brad, I can give you better insights of what's happening in India than Arnab, I think. Or else, like right now, he's just stuck with Sushant Singh Rajput, and that's about it. Like, there's this one Bollywood
the suddenness of this move. The sheer suddenness of this move. This is what Arnab was talking about TikTok being banned in India, and the way he did it was the sheer suddenness of this move. And he's like, I was like, dude, first put your fingers down, behave like a reporter. You are a journalist. You don't have to yell at people. Like, please put your fingers down.
I think the journalism in India is changing with the course of time. Like I think there are so many independent journalists who are raising their voice in a very nice way, and now that like social media is such a big thing at the moment, I think they are taking like a really good advantage of it. Yeah. So I don't really follow these news channels because I always used to feel that it's a little it's not for me. Yeah, it's very and like it's a very surface level information. There's no depth into it, and I never liked it. But now, like I have a friend who's working with the Quint, which is an upcoming platform.
Like
so he's one of the So it's good. It's nice. Like right now, it's changing a little. So I'm happy. Even when I mentioned about the schools not giving importance to extracurricular activities, now that India has come up with a new education system, it's going to change. Like I am keeping my fingers crossed, and I really wish.
I was so happy.
You guys have something nice to look forward to, educational stuff.
Oh yeah. Like
because unfortunately they don't want to teach certain parts of history, no matter how ugly and true it could be. They want to make it clean and wholesome for some people to learn. So
that exists in India. That exists in India already. Like we don't know. Like here's the thing. I'll give you an example. I did not study about the Maratha Empire. So I come from that entire lineage of Marathas, and I had no clue about the entire Maratha Empire, the reach, the entire significance of it, and how they actually stood up against the Mughal tyranny. Because the Mughals, I mean, it's nuanced. I understand it's very nuanced, but during the time of Aurangzeb, it was the last final emperor of the Mughal clan, or the Mongol clan as it is known. He was a dictator. He was tyrannical. He would essentially. This is my understanding of it. It's so nuanced nowadays. He would tax the Hindus for being Hindus. He was very pro Muslim, pro Islam. And I mean, that's fine, I understand. But the thing was, finally, a bunch of Hindu rulers, the Rajputs and their distant relatives. I mean, this is how I understand the Shandakoi Marathas. It's like they were distant relatives of the Rajputs. Shandakoi means 26 Marathas, the 26 Maratha clans who essentially settled in Maharashtra, and they gave advent to what is now known as the Maratha Empire. To which
There's a movie about it just now. It's just released very recently.
Yeah, Tanaji, if I'm not mistaken. Tanaji,
right? Tanaji, yes, but it's like a commercial movie. There was also a independent director who made like a short film about it.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I didn't know about all this until I started reading about it, and I started like learning about it. So since we're talking about education, like, I didn't know about this. All I know is, okay, Congress Party did this, Congress Party did this. I'm like, why do I have to hear about the Indian National Congress Party? The Indian National Congress Party had a major role in getting India its freedom for the majority of its part. Sorry if you're going off topic, but it's just like, this is one topic which really triggers me. Is I want to hear about heroes who did not have anything to do with the Indian National Congress Party. I want to hear about genuine heroes, genuine like Tanaji or Bajirao Ballad. I did not know about this. In my head, Bajirao Ballad looks like Ranveer Singh, but even though he doesn't, he was so much more than that. He was so much more larger than life than what Ranveer Singh brought to. Okay, that's Bajirao Mastani. It's a Hindi movie, commercial movie. But if you read about the story of how progressive Bajirao Ballad was, you'll realize that Hindu culture during that period, even though it was very 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 oppressive and very rigid, he was like this breath of fresh air in it. And so I didn't know about all this until I started doing my own research and started reading up on it. So this is something which that is why a lot of people do not have this sense of identity with the Indian culture. Like you'll see one set of like the population being like, oh, in Hindu Rashtra, Hindu culture, and it's so skewed. And it's like, oh, we are high caste Hindus, we don't want to talk to this one, we don't want to talk to that one. And I just find it so strange. And then there's one part of the culture which is so westernized, like Pranali mentioned, and they're like, oh, we do not speak any of the local languages. We speak with a fake ass accent. I'm like, where do you get this accent from? Number one. They only speak in English, and they will only use fancy English terms, and they will only study in convent schools. And I'm like this, and yeah, these are also the people who think that Westerners are better than Indians. They are fellow Indians.
Wow.
So yeah.
No, but like, to be very honest, now that we are on this topic, like, yes, I understand that Black Lives Matter was a very big movement in the US. And I saw many of my friends supporting it, and I was really happy because like it really took like a global, like the movement became very global. So I was very happy that there are like people from all parts of the world trying to come and talk about Black Lives Matter, basically. Okay, but I was like, guys, like I had this one genuine question to my friends who made their put a black post on Instagram and made their DPs black and all of that. And I was like, have you even like, did you even realize what it means to them, or do you even know what all they actually went through? And I understand supporting is it's a very personal choice, but then do it for your own countrymen as well. I feel like there are so many Assamese, there are so many like South Indians for that matter, or even now 12 baj gaye to Punjabis go mad. This is like a thing which is so it's not cool anymore, guys. Like, we don't live in that era anymore. And I was like, talk about all these things too, and why don't you talk about the things that you felt were happening around you? So it's all about, like, I understand westernization is not a wrong concept, but undervaluing your own culture is also a very big backdrop. I feel like it should. I'm sorry.
No, I totally agree. I think I'm glad that the Black Lives Matter movement was able to go international and everybody all around the world saw the plight. But I think that's something that I think every culture needs to look and see if they have marginalized or hurt somebody within their culture as well. Don't let Black Lives Matter in America stop you guys from looking at your own culture and seeing what problems that you guys have as well.
Yeah, because we have. Well, in our country, cows are more safer than women. And as ironic
now you're just.
I'm getting political.
Now you're using a headline of one tabloid.
I'm getting political. I'm getting political. I'm getting political. No, but it's not that. It's what I'm trying to say is, we need to understand women's rights. We need to understand, the hashtag #MeToo movement is roaring in India along with nepotism. Kangana Ranaut has taken it to a different level altogether.
But Me Too movement loses its essence if you are just talking about it, not knowing what it is about. Like there are so many people who are doing it right now. And I feel, so that's exactly was my point of view when it came to Black Lives Matter. I was like, you did not face a thing. You're not that part of the group. Understanding about it and then speaking is one thing to support a movement, but just not knowing and just knowing a surface level information and like speaking and making your opinions is completely not acceptable.
Yeah, it's a dishonest.
You need to know so much.
Yeah, it's so unfair, and it's also very nuanced. Like you cannot look at just one. You can't just look at it with a very tunnel vision approach. You have to understand all perspectives, and which news channels obviously don't do at this stage.
No. I totally agree with you, Mo. I do think some news channels do not look at it that good at all. But also, I'm glad that the Me Too movement is kicking as well too. But it's just people. We need to do a better job, I guess, and just not just in Hollywood, especially in the West, but also all over. We need to look all over the world where women are marginalized, different minority cultures are marginalized based upon purely their race and nothing else.
Right.
So definitely, I do think we should definitely be looking at that. But
since you also actively do theater and you're actively a theater performer as well, and I think you're looking also into getting into choreography of said performances. So what's that entire procedure like? Can you just run us by what the entire procedure is with choreography and performing in theater and stuff? I know that's one topic which you're really passionate about.
There are many things I can talk to you about right now. So for me, I had no idea what a music is. Of course, I had ideas. Of course, when I was learning things, I saw performances on YouTube or various other platforms, and I never had this feeling that I wanted to do this. Okay, honestly, I was, I think, very comfortable in this teaching that I was doing in SNDA. Honestly,
right.
But when various faculties used to come and teach, guest faculties who used to come and teach at SNDA, they always used to come and tell me that I think you're a very good performer. You're a good performer. And I used to be like, okay, I am a performer, but being in a dance company, I could not perform as much as I wanted to, because it's a proper school where you want to, teach and then perform and all of that. So I told Sumit sir that I want to really pursue something. Maybe I don't know yet what should I do, but then I think I'll figure out a path. And then he was more than happy. He's like, okay, go ahead with it, let me know and all of that. And I think he has promoted me being a dancer in Aladdin more than I have promoted myself. It was just like that. So when there were 5 rounds of auditions, and I was very nervous because one of the best dancers from India were coming and auditioning, because it was Disney India. It was a big label to perform for.
Yeah.
So I was very nervous, and I remember literally going blank on stage at the last last showcase where we learned the choreography just like few minutes before, and we were supposed to showcase it. And I went blank, and I didn't know what to expect. And then, but I didn't stop there. Like I understood the next beat. I left one bar and I kept ahead. Like I went ahead with it. Okay. So I did not like stop or freeze on the stage. I saw here and there, and I just like started. And I realized I love this. Okay. This is nice. Because I was under a spotlight and I knew that I couldn't stop. Even though I've forgotten the choreography, I can't stop here right now, even though it's just an audition. But I was on stage and I loved that. I loved that feeling of someone watching me and blah blah.
Right.
After that, theatre, I think I fell in love with the entire process that goes behind making a musical. Initially, that's true. Then was it's a fairy tale. So basically, there's a princess and there's a prince and there's a beggar and all that blah blah blah. But for choreographing, I wanted to actually know what exactly we are dancing, because I wanted to know what the choreographer is thinking when he wants to portray those dancers on stage. So I love that process where Bertwin D'Souza, who was our choreographer, and Champa ma'am was also the choreographer, because both of them are a very sweet couple. Yeah, I love them. So they were working together and they were thinking about, so there's this one song, Friend Like Me, the Minions and Genie, with Genie, and I realized the entire choreography pattern changed there. It was no longer this lovey-dovey thing. It was us being crazy on stage. And I always had this fear of what's the importance of a dancer when it's going to be very theatrical. They're going to be acting and there's going to be singing, and what is it that people would come and look out for from dancers? Are we the characters? Are we representing the idea, or what are we? So I loved the entire process of creating our value into a musical, where we became pretty much like a irreplaceable part. Like if there are no dancers, there's not a musical. So that journey from, having this one feeling of, okay, will we do the justice to it, to reaching a stage where it's not going to run if we are not there, to that stage. The journey was incredible. I loved how disciplined it is. Like you need to have like a proper backstage management done. I entirely loved how planned our backstage were, because our props were huge. They were moving props, and from there, and how and blah blah. So I used to talk to everyone, right from, because I was so passionate about learning how to improve the overall performance for the audience. I used to usually speak to the costume team, or okay, why did you think of this color and blah, or backstage management of when did you start planning the entire backstage area of, there will be aisle of entering and exits, and how. And I used to talk to light designers of why did you think of giving this hue, or why this color for a particular scene. And I realized that everything, it's not just the performers on stage, but everything in a musical enhances the experience. And if there's no sound engineer, actually, like our sound engineer used to literally, for our sound checks, he used to sit from the first seat of the first row to the last seat of the last row, and used to understand how the sound works. And if that man was missing, then the sound was gone. And then what's the point of a musical? So I realized it's not just dancers anymore. Like we are not just dancers anymore. We are a family who's going to give a great experience to the audience. And yes, it was a highly paid musical, but like even the audience were paying a lot, and we were also getting paid a lot. So it was a good thing for all of us. But the experience, like the amount of dedication each sector, or like costume, like each department were putting in, was something very beautiful. I can't really express, but it was like, it has to, like every department has to come together and do something. It's just not a solo where a performer will go on stage and do whatever the hell he or she wants to do. It's a proper musical. So it has to happen that way. And then there was no stopping me. Like I went crazy. I was like, okay, next musical, tell me about it. And I went ahead with it. But yeah, it was like a crazy experience. And I realized that theater is love. Like the lights, when the lights hit you the first time. So when we enter the entrances, we are on the props as the people of Agrabah, and the lights just come in. And I knew at that point that this, if I'm asked to do this, the same thing for the entire life, I'll be happy to do it. Like that feeling was really good. Like, of course, I wouldn't have gotten that feeling if I would have been a part of TCS or Wipro or some company, some IT firm. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was on the right track. Like I knew that this is what maybe I wished for unknowingly. It just came to me.
That's great to hear.
I mean, yeah.